Well, hey there, everyone. Brian Truskowski with Illuminate. We're going to continue the conversation. Steve contacted me. He wanted to do a new video on a healing process that he has just come up with, or that's come to him in the last few weeks, and been having a large amount of success in doing so. So, with that, we're going to be leading into a session where he's going to lead me, guide me as a participant through one of his healing processes. And we go pretty deep. And so, if you want to either watch it as my own experience, or my encouragement to you is to go along with it as Steve will guide you through the journey. So if you're needing to if you're having some time, listen to the video. It's about an hour long, and it'll be a beautiful journey of self-healing. And Steve's trying to provide tools for you to do some self-healing. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So let's get into the video and have a lovely day. Well, hello, everyone. Brian M. Truskowski here with Illuminate. We have Steve McLean, longtime guest, longtime viewer and listener and participant here. He has some more fun observational healing experiences he wants to share with us here, approaching the new year. So, yeah, if you haven't been a part of this before, if you go back on the channel, there's a bunch of other videos with him and I. It's always a riot to listen to. Without further ado, Mr. Is it doctor? Doctor? Doctor.
Yeah.
On to you, doctor.
All right. Well, Brian and I have done a few conversations. We've done actually some healing work as part of our conversation, which is what we're going to do today, and got really good feedback that people went and watched the video and had this healing experience, which was what my intent was in the beginning, was to do a healing session, videotape it, and when other people would go and watch it, they would have a healing session. So I got enough feedback that it worked. And so we're going to do that again. And also, I'm going to be setting up the field, and then we'll just decide whether or not that's part of what we want to include in the video. But at least if we do include it, you'll hear the names of some of the beings that are helpful in terms of holding the field for your healing. They don't do anything other than hold a high vibration so that your system can open itself up to that higher vibration and change if it wants to. And then also, this is Wednesday, so it would be 2 weeks ago tomorrow, if that isn't too confusing, when I in the evening in the dream world, I just cleared all these energetics, and I woke up that Friday morning kind of in a different place. And from that place, I began having just text after text after text about having sessions, to the point that it just was amazing to me that it's, I do a number of sessions a week, but not as many as there were called for after I cleared something, which is frequently the case. And not only that, the sessions that I did, the first 3 sessions, which is normally how many I do maybe in a week, that were just the next day on Friday, those 3 sessions were 3 of my clients who've had years of experience with my work. And all of 3 of those just wrote back and said, oh, that was something new, which was what I felt it was as well. So today we're going to be doing an observational healing session with Brian. And so while we're in the midst of the session, Brian may be commenting on something he's noticing. I may be commenting on something I'm noticing. I work with the field of energy that is between us. So Brian has a field of energy, I have a field of energy, and between us there's a field of relationship, which is the field that I work with when I do healing sessions. So I help to ground anything that, I'm the garbage collector. So Brian puts out the trash, I haul it off to the dump. And so that's kind of my part of the process. Plus I'm the person that sets up the field. So I'm just going to set up the field. I might have my eyes closed because I usually do when I'm setting up the field. And then we'll just notice while we're setting up the field what it is that you notice. So your part in this is like, oh, I felt this. Oh, that changed. Oh, I felt this. Oh, that changed. That's your part in your own healing, is just noticing when things change. So I'll set up the field, and I'm going to do it fairly quickly, but you can pause it if you need to kind of feel more connected with the beings that are going to be working with us today. And so when you do this work, when you listen to this and you want this healing field set up for yourself, when I say, I choose to open a field for, and then you put your name in there. So you can just go Brian, if that's your name. And if you're dyslexic, you can go Brain.
Or Nerb.
Yep.
Nerb.
You know, so so today I choose to open up a healing field for Brian and for anyone else who watches and listens to this video later. And I ask the Brotherhood of Light, please be present. And the Deva of Healing, please be present. Pan of Nature, please be present. The Sisterhood of Light, please be present. Brian's helpers and guides, and anyone else who watches this later, their helpers and guides, please be present. Saint Germain, my helpers and guides, please be present. Saint Germain, please be present. Metatron, please be present. Kuan Yin, please be present. Master Mo, please be present. Master Kunli, please be present. Christ consciousness, please be present. Holders of space, please be present. Sanat Kumara, please be present. Abrahamanad, please be present. Alcazar, please be present. Interdimensional being, please be present. Thoth, please be present. Ra, please be present. Higher self, please be present. And our soul ray group, please be present. And I ask that we be placed in a field of protection while we do this work. I ask the higher self to take us through the portal of time to the event that would be of the highest good to release and integrate at this time. And I invite all souls affected by this event to return to the event and release and integrate the energy of the event for themselves. And I ask that they all be placed in a field of protection while they do their work. And upon our arrival at the event, I ask the higher self to assist us to release and integrate all energies of the event, gently and easily, fully and completely, on all levels and through all space and time. So when the field is set, then it can be very useful for you to just touch in with yourself, notice what you're noticing, and over the course of the next period of time, however much time we spend with this, and if you're watching this at home, you can always stop and start the process. Like if you need more time, you can always stop the process, take that time when you feel like, okay, that's good, then start the process again. The process will continue, but you can start and stop the video. So I'm going to check in. I'm going to check in with myself, and I'm going to check in with Brian, because this field is set up for Brian, but I'm affected by every field I set up. So I'll oftentimes be feeling the things that Brian's feeling while this process is going on. So I just going to check in with Brian and just say, do you notice anything particularly as we start this healing adventure?
I think the only thing that showed up for me was a small level of fear which is interesting. What I'm deciding to call fear, because I don't know where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't know what's possible. I don't know what's going to show up. And that was the first thing. And noticing some tightness, coughing like in my throat and kind of in my heart. That's where it's showing up. So
that's really helpful in that when almost anyone does a healing session, they don't know what's going to happen. So he's describing things that are very, very common for other people who are having these observational healing sessions, because all of us are going somewhere that we don't consciously know where we're going to do work that we don't consciously know what that work is. It may become conscious what we're doing while we do it, but we're going somewhere doing something, and sometimes we'll describe it as fear, sometimes we'll describe it as excitement. And the energy of fear and excitement are pretty similar. And depending on which you describe it as, is more the experience you have of it. But when you describe it as excitement, you might go, oh, I feel kind of excited, or I might feel a little fearful. They're pretty much the same energy. So now you'll never be able to forget that, and you'll always think of your fear as excitement, and it makes it better if you wanted to. All right. And so then he talked about a number of other things, which the throat, chest, heart. So one of the things I'm going to suggest is those are the areas that are going to be clearing in this experience, because the energies are set up to release any stuck energies. So if when you go in and you're feeling stuck energies, you're going to feel them unstick, and then you're going to feel what it feels like when those energies that are stuck kind of come unstuck. And for the past 2 weeks, it's a whole new level of work that has opened up, probably because of the changes I went through. And so now I'm able to work with this higher level of work. And it's just, we're not given more than we can handle, but sometimes it seems like we're given exactly what we can handle, like at the limit of what we can handle, but not more than that. But always when we confront anything, there's energy. And as we get more and more comfortable with that energy, we get more and more comfortable with our healing. So, all right. And so already things are happening. And so I'm going to let Brian describe them if he's feeling something. And otherwise, I'll describe what I'm noticing.
Yeah, I think I've already described it from my observation is, yeah.
Right. But what's happening with it now? Because you described it like 2 minutes ago and it's different.
I feel like it's more present in my chest, like a tension or a weight. Throat's still kind of there. It feels a little less. And even the solar plexus is coming in a little bit, stomach. Just sensation. Other than sensation, I can't explain more than that. So
yeah. And so those are the same things I was feeling. The thing that I was noticing, though, is I was noticing this counterclockwise movement of energy underneath the chest plate. So one of the things I've noticed over the past couple of weeks is in almost every session, this thing that I've referred to as the chest plate, almost the protective armor of the chest, has been kind of coming off for people in every session. So something's going on where it's affecting everybody in very similar ways. So when he begins to describe something, I've already had, 12 experiences of what he's describing happen with other people. Then this is the first time that Brian and I have done a session since this new work started, unless we consider the telephone conversation we had yesterday as a session, which probably was, but that's just the way it is. But it was a couple of weeks ago Friday that this new work came in. And so this next part of this session, I'm going to be taking Brian into an experience that quite possibly he's never had before with himself.
Mm.
So when I do that with Brian, I want you to make sure that you're thinking those thoughts, the suggestions I'm making with words, I'm actually inviting you into a place inside yourself. So I want you to not think of this as something, oh, I'm listening to it, oh, I'm getting it, oh, I understand that, because that's just making up stories and not having experience. And what I'm offering here is an experience of your own deep healing based on your connection with yourself, which is what's going to heal yourself. I know that can seem confusing. Well, how can myself heal myself? Well, there's all sorts of different aspects of what you think about as yourself. So what I'm going to invite Brian to do is to go to the deepest aspect of himself and just feel yourself just dropping right in there. And then once you're in there, once you feel like, oh, I am it. And you could say, well, I don't know if this is the deepest part of myself. Well, it's deep enough, wouldn't you say? And wouldn't you say that was awfully easy to just drop into that place that you might not have been in this lifetime?
So are you want me to describe this, or what are we?
Sure. Experience it, describe it, do all of those things, because once you connect with this deep self, and we could say deepest self, but if we just say deep self, we tend to go to the deepest aspect of ourselves that we can go to at that time. And so then we have an experience of ourselves at kind of the deepest level that we've possibly gone to.
So I saw it first from like third person, and I have the ability to go first person into it, but it's sort of witnessing me in a very dark space, sitting on my butt with my knees to my chest, almost like in this place of like trying to like recoil and protect myself from whatever is there, but it's all black except for my own awareness of physical.
And so as you tune into that deep aspect of yourself, which is, now I'm going to describe it in one way that maybe others, it'll help others to understand it as they're experiencing it. We talk about our higher self. And when we think of the higher self, we think of something outside of ourselves, which it is. It's our highest self, and it's outside of our physical body. What we're talking about with the deep self is the highest self inside our body. And they're the same self.
So I feel like I just go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And I feel like I just stood up and like in that same like uncertainty, like plastered myself like hard against the wall, whatever's behind me, flat surface. And as I'm doing that, I'm noticing like the pain is almost not a pain, it's a very strong discomfort in the chest heart area.
So
center,
yeah.
like here, not heart, not human heart, but energetic heart.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so if you you feel these different things, and then you take your awareness and your attention back into the deepest aspect of yourself, what do you feel there when you're in that place at the core center of yourself? What do you feel in that place?
All I know is I started falling down a tunnel, or falling down, legs and arms are flailing in the air, and I'm going down. I don't know where I'm going, it's still dark.
Yeah. So if you knew that where you were going, and this is this is kind of we don't know what's going to happen when we begin dropping down into that space at the core of ourself. But there's some words I'm going to use that might make this easier. This is the energetic that heals everything. So when you drop to the core of yourself, you're dropping to that aspect of yourself that is an aspect of everything.
Okay, so I popped out in this. I'm just giving you the visual to see. I don't know what's going on, but
that's what's happening.
the visual where I popped out is sort of in this peaceful meadow, brownish grass, bright blue sky, trees like off in the distance, like a forest, but again alone here, but feels way more comfortable here than there. And
Yeah. And the other place where you're falling and scrabbling and your hands are trying to grasp something and all of that stuff. But
the chest sensation is still there. It's not as prominent. The throat seems to be cleared. At least it's easier to speak. There's flares of discomfort in the chest center. The thought before in the dark spaces, I'm alone, and now the thought is I don't know what I'm doing here. Now, like with the awareness of the meadow space. But it's quiet and peaceful.
And this was my experience of it initially 2 weeks ago. When I woke up on a Friday morning, it was like, oh, wow. This is about as good as I felt in my memory. And then in each of the sessions I went through with the clients, each of the sessions was, oh, wow, this is about as good as I felt in my memory. And each client's description was, I feel at peace. I feel calm. It feels like everything's okay. And I said, yeah, that's how it feels to me too. And there are these things going on. And as we stay in this place that feels peaceful and calm and where everything is okay, then we can just watch this energy as it begins to move, which it will tend to begin to move because we are beings that move, and our energy moves. And go ahead.
I want to say some cats came up, or a cat came up to me, and I'm sitting on the ground petting the cat.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some tightness here. I guess the fear is absent
currently, and it may be present later. And all these things can happen. And what
I'm gonna say, so there's another individual human kind of came up, sat next to me, and put their arm around me and just said everything's gonna be all right.
Nice.
So it was just me and this human and the cat hanging out. Maybe explain why I'm yawning. I know why, but if you want to explain it to people who may not know, who are physically watching this.
Yeah, so yawning does a whole bunch of things. Yawning releases a tremendous amount of energy from the jaw. So the jaw is a place where we tend to hold our fear. So the fear tends to be held in our hips, in our pelvic, top part of our pelvic bones, the hip joints, the femur heads, the top part of our pelvic bones, lower part of our rib cage, which is related to the vertebra, T9, 10, 11, 12. T9 is adrenal glands, which is related to fight or flight, the fight or flight endocrine gland. Small intestine gets shut down when we're in fight or flight, so all digestive processes stop. That's why people who are constantly in fight or flight don't digest their food well. And then T11 and 12, thoracic 11 and 12, relate to the kidneys, which the kidneys are also part of fight or flight. And then going up, the upper part, the upper rib cage, the shoulders, the atlas vertebra, the occiput, and the malar bones, and the TMJ, they're all part of this fight or flight, this contraction, pulls our shoulders forward, kind of locks us up, gets us ready to fight or to flee or to freeze. So if we freeze, we just lock those energies up and we get a little catatonic for a little period of time. So when we go back to an event, whether we do it consciously or just on a soul level. So when I set up this field earlier, I said, I asked the higher self to take us through the portal of time. So we're going into a place of timelessness. And I asked the higher self to take us to the event that would be of the highest good to release and integrate at this time. So the highest self, the higher self, that self that knows what's in our highest good, is taking us to the event that's most useful for us to release and integrate at this time, this very specific time. And so each of you who do this exercise, meditation, visualization, healing session, whatever you want to call it, each of you that do this later, because today is the whatchamacallit, 20th, maybe Wednesday, the 20th of December, and you might be doing this, Christmas Day or as a New Year's present to yourself. Whenever you do it later, it's still going to be now. So right now it's now. And when you do this process later, it's going to be now. So you're going to be doing the process now. So no matter when you do this process, it's only going to be taking place now.
It's always no.
It's always now. And yeah. And so even when we go back to these events, they're kind of taking place now. So we're resolving an event that on another level is taking place now. Okay, I got mildly distracted, which is good because I had a conversation the other day with a good friend of mine who lets me ramble on and then ask me good questions about my ramblings. And I was talking to him about when I find myself complaining about reality, while I hold the perception that I create my own reality. So now I'm just going to say, I'm going to just interrupt that for a brief pause as I mention how Brian is releasing his shoulders currently. So I'm feeling what is happening in the field. So as he's doing things, I'm feeling those things happening. And then out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching what's happening and I'm watching him release these things. So this is all going on at the same time. And the more you are less attached to holding on to things, the more you tend to see that's going on and feel and hear what's going on in this present moment. So right now, there's all this stuff coming out of the ears. Now, if you had a particular sight, so we all have different levels of awareness of the energy around us. So if you had a particular sight, clairvoyance, I think it's referred to as when you're clear seeing or something. And then there's clairsentience and clairaudience and all sorts of things. But this energy that's coming out of the ears right now, if you look over in the videotape, you might see that energy. And I remember one of the sessions we did with Brian where we had a kind of maybe the same background or similar background. You could just see these waves of energy kind of going along the hillside behind him. And that's the energy that's coming out of his ears. Now, the energy coming out of the ears tends to be about grief and loss. The energy of the lungs tends to be about grief and loss. So this, and I've gone into some descriptive aspects while he's doing this work, but I'm doing this work. And if you're watching this, you're doing this work. So I'm going into some descriptive aspects of it, so that when you feel certain things going on in your body, you're not like, why is that happening? That shouldn't be happening. You know, like it's happening because you're letting go of energies that you were holding on to. So talked a little bit about fear related to the jaw, grief related to the ears, and I talked about the kidneys being related to fight or flight and to fear. And so right now the kidneys are releasing, but not only are the kidneys releasing, but the base of the skull. So I also mentioned the occiput related to fear. And right now the occiput, it just has been feeling like it's been getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And then it'll do that. And then all of a sudden, you know, and you just have to just be patient. It may release. And all of a sudden, like, oh, that's different. And that's how it happens. And all you need to do, and actually all you need to know, is that you are being healed by the deepest aspect of yourself. And you could say, why wasn't this happening before? And I could say, probably because you hadn't yet tapped into the deepest aspect of yourself.
The other thing I feel like I want to mention with what you're saying, now that
Yeah.
I'm sort of coming back, is the story doesn't matter. Like whatever I just experienced, I
You
don't
might
have to
like
go.
it though. I'm just saying, you know, I agree with him, and I'm saying, but you might like it. I mean, the
Yeah.
story doesn't matter, but you might like it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't personally have a story. I have no
There,
idea without creating one.
right? Which we can do too. But it is really the release. We'll all come to the fact that what really is valuable in our own healing is releasing energies that we are holding on to. Really, all healing is letting go. And people say, well, that's so simple. I go, really? Have you found that to be true for yourself? I personally haven't found it as simple as it sounds. Although whenever I've done it, I've gone, oh, that really works. I just let that go and I feel better. And the more you do that and the quicker you do it, the less you have to suffer. And you don't really have to suffer at all if you're willing to just let go of anything you've been holding on to. You start breathing. And then this heavy chest feeling starts to lighten up. And then your energy gets a little bigger. And the places that feel a little contracted, that are holding your energy in, that you might feel some discomfort there. And it's okay. It's okay to feel discomfort because it's stuck energy and it can be uncomfortable. And when you go, oh, and you could state out loud, I choose to let this go. And then you have to take your hands like this and you have to kind of pulse your hands as you let it go. So I'm kidding, you don't have to do this, but I'm just doing it as a demonstration of once you say, I choose to let this go, and you start feeling that energy come out, this may be how it comes out, you know? And you feel like, oh, I'm expanding. Now I'm having these experiences while this is happening. I'm not saying this thing so that it happens. I'm saying this thing as it happens. Like this thing is happening and I'm feeling it. And I'm watching Brian feel it. I'm listening to Brian feel it. And you're hearing the sounds of release. And you may make sounds of release. So there's this tension that I'm experiencing. And you can go, oh, he's describing something I'm experiencing. That's fine. There's this tension around the ears that are just right in this area. And it relates to this mastoid process that's part of the occiput, that's part of that fight or flight. The atlas vertebra, the top vertebra in the neck, is part of fight or flight. The TMJ, the jaw joint, the temporal mandibular joint, that's related to fight or flight. So there's all this energy, and the ears are related to grief. So when this energy releases, you're going to be feeling fight or flight release, or grief release, or even anger release, whatever. Those are the big three. But you feel this, and I'm going to demonstrate what it sounds like. So here we are, we're feeling this thing. You might be feeling this thing. You're watching this videotape. You might be watching Brian because he's better looking, in my opinion. You might be watching him. But while you're doing that, you might be feeling this energy here, and watch what happens when this sound, and I'm going to make the sound when this sound comes out. And this may be a sound you've been holding. So here it goes. I mean, it may come out sounding like that. It could come out sounding like anything. But if you've got a space to do healing, and you're at home or wherever you are, in your car, wherever you're doing this, and you have that space to yourself, and you feel like it's okay, and sound wants to come out, let the sound out, because the sound's part of what's trapped. Sound is energy. Unresolved trauma is trapped energy. Anything we're holding on to is changing the vibration, the natural vibration of our organs, our skin, our bones, our hair, our eyes, our ears, our heart, our lungs, our liver, our back muscles. They're all affected by energy we hold on to, and they're all affected by energy we let go of.
So I feel like I'm being held by a beloved and feel very safe. Like
So let me just
incredibly.
mention that is your deepest self. I'm telling
And
this to you in the audience, but also on the side to Brian. But what you're being held by, that you refer to as the beloved, is yourself. And I had never felt it. I'd never felt that before 2 weeks ago.
so it's like I feel like I'm on my butt, they're behind me and just holding me upright, like kind of like I'm in this orientation right now. But in my chest, I have waves of what I could describe as love or expansion or feel good feelings, kind of radiating out from center line.
Yeah. So he's describing how his energy is affecting him. And sometimes we'll hear the description as putting that energy of us holding ourselves out to someone else. And it's not that we don't have guides and helpers. So we have guides and helpers that are continually there to help us as we're coming to this place of understanding how we can help ourselves. And so we may make up these images, but we're making up images or ideas to support the experience we're having. But I'm just going to say that the experience that we're each having is possibly an experience for the first time of our deepest self. And I'm going to project this into the future because I've only been working with his deepest self for 2 weeks now, not even 2 weeks, like 12 days. But what I'm going to project into the future from my imagination of what this is going to do, this is going to take every single person who's willing to go to that place of their deepest self into the power of themselves healing themselves. So if you're watching Brian, what you're watching is Brian's self healing his self. And that's what's happened with every person I've worked with. And I think this is maybe the 13th session. You know, there's been so many of them in relationship to how many I normally do, you know? There's just been so many. And I have positive feedback on my work. That's why I love it. And people get changes from it. And I get feedback like, oh, that was really helpful, or whatever was going on. It seems much better now, or it's gone away, or whatever. But for the last 2 weeks, and the majority of my clients I've been working with for years. And you would say, well, why do you have to work with them for years if you're healing them? Well, I'm not healing them. I'm teaching them to heal themselves. But the feedback I got in the last, 12 days is that I've never experienced anything quite this deep. And I'd say that's because in all the things I've done, I've never experienced myself this deep. And because I'm experiencing myself this deep, it's an encouragement to anybody I'm working with to experience themselves this deep. And then we're trying to make sense of it, because I think, except for maybe a few people, most of us have never gotten to have this experience of ourselves, because the world we live in and what we make happen, or maybe the energies are ripe. Maybe this is the time for us to really experience ourselves.
So I just want to chime in.
Yeah.
Is the sensation in the chest came back, but I wouldn't qualify it as fear or discomfort anymore. It's a very present stimulus, maybe like you were saying earlier, like excitement. Maybe it's no longer
power might be a word. Power might be a word.
It's no longer discomfort. It's almost feels similar, but it's got a different energy.
Yeah.
But what I would say is around this was very deep, different, because I feel like when I've done other healing sessions, it's led to strong emotive, so strong desire to want to scream or yell or cry, or maybe feel disempowered in that release as it goes away. Whereas this didn't feel, it felt like, yeah, that, like you said, that level of peace is like unlike peace that I've felt in a long time.
I described it as in this lifetime.
Right.
I had never felt that level of peace in this lifetime.
Well, it's
I felt peace.
Right. Well, what's interesting is, for lack of better words, it's a new human in my life. And last night was hanging out with them and was feeling a very similar level of peace. And it's like, and I just met this person. It's like, okay, this is fascinating how there's clearly something there, because the amount of peace that's just there is supersedes anything else. And this was at that same level of that. And so it's fascinating how literally, like, not even 12 hours ago, right, was getting these hints of these things. And last night, my occiput, for odd reasons, was feeling a lot of tension as I was going to bed. And so as these things that you're mentioning here, so it's just interesting to, go through this. I think what is different for me, like I said, it was intense or uplifting, as we say, but not in the usual kicking and screaming and wanna do something kinesthetic or dramatically kinesthetic. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, I think, you know, in some ways it's like riding a bike. And for those of us, the first time, well, with training wheels or without training wheels, you know, I crashed pretty hard. But I did it that one time, and after that I got better at riding because I didn't want to crash. And it's not like I didn't crash my bike other times as well when I was trying to do kind of fancier riding. But when we're doing healing, there's a progressive state of healing where we get to this level and we work with this energy, and we get to this level and we work with this energy. And what I would say, so I've been doing this for over 50 years, and in terms of getting trained to do it for over 50 years, and probably really been doing it, you know, the whole time I've been alive. So I've been figuring out, how do I let go of this? How do I move through this? But what's different to me in this experience, and has been now for 12 days, is that it feels like there's nothing I'm doing except identifying with that which is doing it. So I am identifying myself as my deeper self.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
and this deep level of calm, and like almost
Yeah,
like I just like
I know.
fall
I
asleep right
know.
now.
I know.
So
And so I'm going to talk because that helps. I don't know what it helps, but I just like to say it helps, or, you know, consider this, or because of how we're doing this, because we're doing this, even though you're not here right now, but now you are here. So you are here right now, but you weren't here back then when it was now, when you weren't here, but now you're here. And there's things I want to talk about that you might experience that we might not talk about till later, but I would like to talk about it now, because when you do this, you may go, there's depths that each of us can go, and you may go deeper. Like Brian and I'll go to a certain depth today that is deep, deeper than he and I have gone before. But I feel like this is just plumbing the depths. Like when we say, I go to my deep self, or I go to my deepest self, even, we go to the depths that, oh yeah, that is myself. So I want to describe some things that may begin happening for you, and they might happen for Brian, or they might happen the next time we do this. But some things that might happen for you, that when they start to happen, I want you to just notice them. And you may say, well, because you told me that these things might happen, that might have been some hypnotic programming. So I go, great. So if I tell you you're going to heal fully and completely without discomfort, if you have an objection to that, turn the video off. You know, if you don't like what I'm saying and I'm telling you how gently and easily you're going to heal, then definitely shut this video off, because I wouldn't want you to have an experience that you don't want, which you might want to thrash and scream and do all this stuff. And if that isn't happening, you're going like, well, nothing's happening. Well, just pay attention and see if anything's happening. One of the things you might notice is your deepest self, from my experience, seems to be in your what's called your pranic tube. Now, you can go look it up. I'll describe it briefly, but go look it up if you want, what the pranic tube is. It's this energy tube at the center of our bodies that rubs out through our crown chakra, and then down through our pelvis, and then down our legs, and out our grounding chakras in the bottom of our feet, which connect us to the earth. So when we connect to this deep self, deeper self, deepest self, whatever, it's all kind of the same thing. Once you get in there, you're like, oh, that feels pretty good. So just notice that feels pretty good. It feels calm. It feels peaceful. Everything feels okay. Oh, the world seems not near as bad as it did just shortly before. Hand up.
Question in the back of the room.
Yeah.
This reminds me of years ago, I think it was in 2020, that you did the meditation to guide me to drop into my pelvis.
Uh-huh.
which you may or may not remember, but I feel like it was a similar level of like.
It is. It was similar in that it was another level of you going inside yourself. And this is another level of you going inside yourself, which is similar to that, only different, but similar, because the energies are the same. You're just tapping in deeper, deeper to yourself. And when you tap in, so it'd be good, at some point you could just stop the video and look up pranic tube and somebody's drawn a picture of it or whatever, or you can just imagine it yourself. You have this crown chakra above your head, all this light's coming in. You have grounding chakras on the bottom of your feet. All this energy is coming in from the earth, and all this energy runs up and down your pranic tube. And as that's running, it's like a stream opening up. It's like, it's breath going through the center of yourself. And I'm just going to describe a few things that may happen to you as you do this, that I've watched happen with others. For one thing is there's this blue energy. Now I've noticed, so I like it, that the sky around Brian's head and maybe the water behind him, but it's all blue to me. And it's this blue energy that seems to be this core energy of the pranic tube that I've run across so far. And when that energy starts to move, it goes up and down the spine, up and down the spine, up and down the spine. And then it starts going into different places. It can go into organs. It can go up underneath the chest plate and begin releasing this chest plate. It can go in and unwind these tangle things in the heart. It can run through the acupuncture meridians. I've watched it just run through the acupuncture meridians, just enlivening the acupuncture meridians. It can run down the neural pathways. It can affect the spinal cord. It can go up into the head and affect the cranium, the brain, the meninges, the covering of the brain. It just begins to penetrate everything. And so I've only got 12 days of experience with this, but I've never seen anything like it before. And I just feel it has made me so happy to know that this is possible. And it's made a lot of other people happy as well, now that we all know that it's possible. So this is self-healing. And that's a finger. He just gave me the finger. Yeah, he gave me 2 fingers. 3, 5, out with 4 and a thumb.
What I want you to say is something that you've said to the people listening on a previous video, where you're not necessarily wanting, or unless you've changed your mind, to be contacted or whatever on account of this session, but just to take it.
Send Brian money. Like and subscribe and send Brian some money, because he does all these videos. He's done a lot of work so he can do these videos. Now, if I ever start doing my own videos, and send me money, a lot of money. Like if you have this amazing healing, you say that was worth $1 million, send me $1 million. Or send somebody $1 million, or just keep it. But anyway,
I'll take $1 million right now.
He'll take $1 million.
Yeah,
and he didn't say ducks.
No, ducks.
I know he's
or
in
bucks.
Northern Michigan, but bucks.
Bucks.
Yeah, so he's gonna have all these handler things. Yeah. So you're gonna possibly have this stuff running through your blood vessels, this energy running through your blood vessels, acupuncture meridians, neural pathways. You'll feel these tingly things going on. And I'm mentioning these because just in this session, Brian and I are doing this session. He's just doing the things that are of the highest good for him to do for himself in this session. I'm mentioning these other things so that if you start having all these other experiences, I'll have possibly briefly talked about those things that you might experience when you're doing this. And I think that Brian and I we've done a few of these and they've been really helpful to people. I think we'll do more. And I think we'll do more. Brian's just such a wonderful person to work with healing with, because he just goes into it and he just does it, and then he's able to describe it. So it's really helpful to people that are watching it to hear his description. So I'm going to ask him now what he's noticing in his body, if anything.
I'm coming, wow, words.
Yeah.
I'm coming more present, becoming more present, not in that deep state of calm, a little more awake. Still noticing the sensation almost like on the sternum, but it's not anywhere even remotely close. There's still some joy when I don't know, it fluctuates between just comfort and joy. It's fascinating to watch it. Yeah, but I'm not really, I don't know. It's just interesting watching it. My voice is getting a little hoarse too, so energy is still moving. Right. Um, but I'll be curious to just sort of sit with this, as I know a lot of energy work. It's not over when the session's over. It continues to integrate and move and shift for a few days sometimes.
And so I'm going to just say a few words because we went back to an event, and you may go back to the same event, or you may go back to a different event when you watch this in the now you watch it in. But at the end, I'll say these words, and I'm going to say them now. So at the end of your session, I'll be saying those words then, in that now. So these are the words. So I ask the higher self and our soul group to assist all the souls that return to the event to combine with that part of their soul that had remained at the event, and bring that combined soul into their body in present time with all of its wisdom, power, and clarity. I ask those souls to ground themselves into the healing center of the earth and open up the portal for the delivery of the new energies into the earth at this time. And I ask the higher self and our soul group to bring those new energies in. And to activate those new energies. And I let the universe and beyond know that this has been done and that is good. And just so you know, those of you who are watching this, in the future now, there may be times when it's just useful for you to hit the pause button and just stop it and just be with yourself. And then when you're ready to move on, hit the go button. And just do that throughout if you feel like that's useful to you, because some of you will be like, oh yeah, this is just healing. I'm just doing my healing, and it's just flow, flow, flow. And others, you like, I've not felt this before, So if you're having that experience, just pause and just have that experience, and just know that when we release stuck energy, it can be sometimes uncomfortable. Sometimes it can be like really exhilarating, and sometimes it can be like, oh, my heart, and we can even sometimes have like pain running down our arms. I'm having the big one, No, you're just releasing energy. I've not lost a person during a healing session. So all the suffering, pain, anything that comes out in a healing session comes out, and then it releases. And as Brian said, it can release for a period of time afterwards. And what that period of time is, we don't know, but just know that it's useful to just keep letting energy open up. And I think more than likely we'll probably do this again really soon. I'm going to guess within the next week, and possibly sooner, because I think that people learning how to heal themselves is like key. It's like the key to our lives and the quality of our lives. If we can go to a video and do what it says in the video and come out the other end feeling like, oh wow, I just healed myself, man, you've made my day. So that's all we actually need to do today for what we were setting to do. But if Brian has some things to say, that's great. And there's a lot of stuff opening up in the heart right now, so we won't need to necessarily talk about that right now. But if you're in this process and you're feeling, something really opening up in your heart, just know that, well, what could be better than things opening up in your heart? Don't let it happen.
But yeah, that's all, folks. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for guiding through this.
Yeah.
Words are not with me right now, so
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for guiding this. And until next time,
Yep. Sounds good.
now let's go.
All right. Now let's go.